Hey everybody! So this is my first time doing a live stream. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to have a little bit of fun and make some music here. And I've popped out the little chat window, so hopefully that works too. But let's see how it goes. Let me see here. Pop out chat. Boom. Boom. So since it's my first time, I don't really know how the audio is going to sound or anything like that. But we'll just have to see what happens. If anybody's on right now, let me know what you think about this sound. I am curious if my voice is hearable, audible over the music, or whether it sounds like complete balls. Let me know in the chat. Hopefully, it's all good. Alright, so I love a blank slate. I love a blank slate. Let's go. I'm going to start with some of my modular samples. Alright, here we go. If you're unaware, these are samples that I made primarily with the analog modules in my modular synth, and they're kind of fun. They're totally wacky, just not your standard run-of-the-mill, boring samples. Yeah, my workflow is pretty much like this. I like to stock up my a drum rack to get started and kind of get the beat going. Kind of get the beat idea in my head. So yeah, let's think here. Something like that. Yeah. Okay, getting somewhere, getting something. Y'all know I love serum. I don't even know if you can see, you probably can't even see the serum window. Tell you what, too bad. Boy, thank you. Let's see here. I actually want to explore Wavetable a little bit because, you know, just got Live 10, never really dove in a way that I think is substantial. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun with Wavetable. Why not? Ooh, I see. Sub oscillator. Okay, all right. This is sounding a little bit thin. So I'm going to use, I'm going to stick to live devices because why not? I'm going to use a bit of a compressor. Smash it a bit. Okay, a little bit better there. Okay. Interesting choice. They decided to make the amp have a little release time as a default. Strange. Let's see here. So the filter's on all the time. Filter, it's got the same kind of sound, doesn't it? Alright, so what can we assign things to? We got modulation sources, what do we got? Okay, you can make it more nice. I like that. So how do I detune? Oh, I see. Interesting. So we got pulse width. We got modern, we got FM. Looks like it's all pulse width, just a different kind. This is FM. What does that even mean, you guys? FM from what, though? What is feeding the FM? Is it oscillator 2? I guess there's only one way to find out. We're going to go back to none. Bring this down to sine. Bring this down to sine. Oh, that sounds like sine folding FM right there, doesn't it? Sounds like sign folding. Alright, well, got something started there. Sorry about the pace of this. I'm just having fun. I'm learning, if you're just joining me, I'm learning how to use Ableton's wavetable because I've never really, I wrote like one track with it, but I've never really delved any deeper than that. Feel free to chat with me on the little chat thing here. I got it open. Just having fun with live on a boring, rainy Monday night. So now I'm committing this to arrangement view because I primarily write most of the music in arrangement view. A lot of people get a lot more stuff done in session view. Not for me. I don't know if you noticed, but in Live 10 they did away with the whole little screen here that shows you a very small version of your arrangement view. But rest assured it is recording in arrangement view. Let's find out what we got here. I'll play a little bit around with the parameters of this guy. We're going to go back to arrangement. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I've been having a lot of trouble with this whole fact you have to hit the flippin' A key to see the automation. Not because I mind doing that, but because when I want to copy something, if I have this selected, notice how it only selects the bottom part here. Why does it not select the top and bottom? You have to select the top and bottom in order to copy and paste. Right? If I just select the bottom and I hit Command C and then I put Command V, I think that's so that you can copy just the automation. It's so obnoxious. Nobody wanted that. I don't think anybody likes that feature. Sorry, Live. Okay, so I can navigate the basic shapes while having this FM amount. Alright, well, if you don't remember earlier, I was just, as I've explained this a million times, anything you want to automate in Live, you just click on what you want to automate, click on the control, and it magically appears Oscillator 1, Effect 2. There are these two effect knobs. If I click on the other one, notice it pops up and says Effect 1, Effect 2. So I'm going to mess around with this Effect 2. And you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick little envelope drawing. Da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. Little basic thing right there. Okay. Let's copy that. Copy that, copy that. Ooh, did you see that? Once again, forgot to hit A. So annoying. Hit A again. Alright, I'm back. So, on the second time around, let's try to navigate up the shapes a bit with this little shape slider. What do they even call it? Wave position. Yeah, this is just like Serum. A watered down version of Serum, as it were. Something cool though, look, as I scrub and click different places, I can see where I'm at in the wave. Huh, that's cool. Alright, so let's try to move this guy at a different rate. Yeah, that's cool. The way it navigates that wave as it goes to higher harmonic content as it goes up, so. Let's go a little bit slower. A bit slower. Okay, well, something. I'm going to now copy just the automation. I know what you're thinking, I could have done this with the LFOs, but why burn up the LFOs? So what else do we got here? So this is just a secondary oscillator. It's not, this isn't really feeding the first one. Pretty weird. So let's try some fun stuff. Dual saw FM harmonics. So that sounds kind of cool as I pull that down. So I'm actually going to apply an envelope to the second wave. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know how to do I don't know what the link is. I'm just assuming that it's like the live link, like c2stage/live, like youtube.com c2stage/live, but I guess that isn't it. I don't know. Like I've been looking at this dashboard trying to figure out what the link actually is, but I don't know what it is. So who knows? Whatever. So this kind of sounds cool. This is kind of fun. This is a you can think of this kind of like as a, like I'm just going to make the front end of this bass line have a little bit more sting by automating this parameter. So this is the first time I've ever automated anything or used this, really the first time I ever really used wavetable. So what I want to do is say that the amp of oscillator, or the position of oscillator 2 is going to be fed from the amp, so positively, so maybe this will work. Yep. Interesting, it doesn't go all the way. Oh, probably because so I was trying to use envelope 2, that's right. So envelope 2, oscillator 2 position. There it is. Check. So here's this little matrix, kind of fun kind of thing. I just found out, yeah, you can send anything to anything, which is the same thing you can do in Serum, but in this case, looks like it might be a little bit more, I don't know, maybe this is a little bit more logic for some people. By the way, I'm just using a little Novation keyboard right now. Launch Key Mini, my little buddy. So that's disappearing a bit too fast. So I'm going to go back to the mod sources and look at envelope 2. It's kind of nice. Alright, so that must be level. It's kind of fun, okay. Everything feels a bit dry, so I'm going to bust out. I'm sticking to live stuff right now. I'm going to bust out. This will just mess with the existing one. I like to use, by the way, when messing with my reverb tone, I kind of like to use the drums to figure out how fast I want the pre-delay to be. A lot of people kind of overlook pre-delay. Pre-delay is so important. Pre-delay allows your initial snaps and clacks and transients of your audio to make it through before they get smashed and washed away in the white noise of the reverb. So I also don't like to do any low cut or high cut to reverb until I've set this parameter, because this way I can hear everything, right? So notice how I mean, 0.5 milliseconds is such a quick little snap. I can't really hear the drums. I mean, these are snappy drums, but I can't really hear the full decay or the full snappiness of these without messing with this control. So move this until I have something I like. In fact, another good way to do this is to take your decay time down so you can really hear. And so now once you get up into this range, you're starting to get little delays, little flams, right? Some people are of the school of thought that you can take your pre-delay up until you've got kind of a musical delay time, and there's like websites dedicated to Nick Feber comes to mind. That's I always search. His BPM calculator works really well. But instead of looking that up, I'm just going to listen. Sounds like around 42 is what I like, so that's my pre-delay setting, and now I can get into some of the other aspects. I'm going to open up the decay time a little bit. Better than cable. Well, I can only hope so. First time streaming, I don't even know if it sounds good. Is my voice like loud enough? Because I can change that. I have the little mixer. I know that you can hear like the production stuff in my microphone because I'm using just the laptop microphone, but you know, whatever. Cool. So kind of got this decent setting on this reverb. I'm really pushing a certain frequency in the mid-range. You can hear that in the drums. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the size up of the reverb a little bit. Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad it sounds balanced. Open the size up a little bit. I'm going to turn this on mid. Okay, I'm going to try to get a little bit less of a band pass going on this. Cool. Alright, I kind of like that reverb. Now that the reverb's set, I'm going to turn it all the way off and dial it in until I like it. That's kind of nice. Alright, so I'm going to listen to this other source. It doesn't really need that much. Okay, now I got a reverb. Cool. Now I'm kind of feeling something maybe a little more clingy. So let's go with, sticking to Ableton devices right now, let's go with collision. A collision. If you haven't used collision that much, I think it's flippin' sweet. But it takes some tweaking, you know? Like, first of all, I think you have to understand what's going on. You have something that makes a snap, clicky, poppy thing over here. And then you have something over here that rings, right? So string. Right? Each thing's going to have a different kind of thing going on, and you have, it's essentially what the synthesis technique is called, well, I'm drawing a blank. physical modeling. And so, like in this case, you have something that they call it an exciter, something that excites something, and then something that rings. So. Getting somewhere. All right. Let's see what we think about it. Don't you just love riffs that start and end in strange places? Hey, you know something that you can gain from this, wasting your time here with me, is you can, if you select any section of Ableton and right-click, you can just hit loop selection and then it will snap to whatever your selection is. Hopefully that made all of this worth it for you, because that's one of my favorite little Ableton tricks. All right, got a little melody here. It sounds wonky and cheap, so let's try to fix that. A. Yeah, kind of get a little bit of less high ring out of it. Maybe fix some of my shoddy playing there. I'm just quantizing. Another thing you can use that makes quantizing quicker, you probably already know it, Command or Control U. Got a little bit of that room reverb I have going. Let's get back into this A. In harmonics, I have IntelliJ Plonk, which is basically the hardware modular version of this, of Collision, and I rarely end up using inharmonics that much. So now that I've kind of got this side set, this is kind of like what I want the rest. Okay, cool. So we got some. This sets the frequency of the mallet's noise component. Okay, that's sounding much better. All right, pitch envelope. Oh, you can get a little bit of a. See what that's like. Cool, little cultural zing on that. Dare I say ethnic. Alright, so I have essentially messed with the sound probably too much. Now it's probably not going to blend with everything else, so let's see what happens. Okay, so I have this repeating twice. I'm going to make the second one do something different. Also, in case you didn't know, if you're in the note editor, hit this little headphone icon, and all of a sudden you can click on notes and hear them. Cool. So, in terms of arrangement, I probably won't have this come in right away. I will have it come in after 2. Yeah, I think, Spencer, I think Collision is something that comes with Suite, or something that you can buy separately and like add the standard if that's what's up. Wavetable, I honestly don't know if it's worth it. I hope the people at Ableton don't get mad at me, but I mean, it's just kind of like the a kind of like watered down version of Serum. I mean, Serum is so deep and so, I don't know, super rad, and the modulation matrix is so crazy deep that, like, I don't know. Everybody's like, don't use Serum, you'll sound like everybody else, and that's totally not true. If you use everyone else's presets, you'll sound like everybody else, but get there and do a tiny little bit of digging and you'll have completely original sounds, and it's awesome. But yeah, I'm using Wavetable and Collision. I'm just trying to stick to Ableton devices because I don't know at this point how to look at multiple screens with this broadcasting software I'm using. I'm gonna get better at this, you guys. It's gonna be so great. Yeah. Live light. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? So, I find that most sounds aren't really that cool till I add more ambience to them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a new return track and leaving the room reverb. I mean, it's sort of room reverb. I would say this is a large room reverb. I'm going to also add a second reverb that's got a lot longer of a tail for this sound, and kind of keep that. Oh, put it on my delay track. Whatever. Turn the drive it all the way up. We're gonna do around a 7-second decay, and I'm just gonna actually listen to the reverb itself. I'm gonna feed this in here. Why would I want to do that? Well, I'm just kind of, gonna kind of listen to what is happening here. I find that some of the settings on reverb are just kind of hard to hear and without. And of course, context is the most important thing, but at this point, I'm just going to try to work with what I have here. I'm also going to use the same 42 millisecond pre-delay here. Yeah, okay. Alright, so I've got my reverb set. So let's go ahead and dial some of this back in. I'm just going to solo my collision track. So now all you're going to hear is both reverbs and the collision track. That's pretty nice. You know what? I might just totally flip the script right now. I'm going to record. Here's something you guys can use. I'm going to record the collision track into a new audio track and just have it for extra fun. So a real quick way to commit something to audio without freezing a track is to, so I've got 2 tracks here, is to, on the input of the track, it's always sitting right here. I mean, if you're not used to looking at that, and if you can't see that, you just hit your little IO key so you can see. I'm going to choose 3 collision. That's now my input. Post mixer. I want it to be post mixer because I want to get the reverb sounds in there. So I'm basically going to be recording an entirely wet, reverbed out version of this collision track. And yeah, so I just hit, I'm going to turn off the loop. I'm just going to hit record. Now I'm going to take the reverb and slap it back down there, and it makes me just want to reverse everything, and then because reverse reverb with intro sound into this part. So obviously a reverb tail is going to be real quiet. I'm going to boost up the gain. So now we have this. And it's the same notes as this right here. So that's really useful. You notice how at the end I let these notes go off? That's what's going on. This is, because I reversed this is the end, right? So now I have, so let's listen to it in context. I'm going to disable this for now. Right, just a tiny little something, just something, right? And so here's a different one, which I can grab. In fact, I might even stretch this out and just see what happens. Oh yeah, much better. I'm going to grab this section here. And remember, if you're in 10, you're only going to grab the automation unless you hit A or you select the top bar. It's so stupid. Okay. So, still got this material over here, just stuff. So now I have two little, like, risers, I suppose you could call them. Now the cool thing is I can just alternate between these two little riser sounds so long as this little part's going on. Kind of cool. Now at this point, I mean, notice, like, I just started this from scratch, like, you know, whatever. I'm not really, like, you know, going too ham on mixing. Like, that's not what this is. When you're, everybody jumps right into mixing, and it's just not a good idea. Sometimes, if you could see in the studio, I have these little mix cubes. They're just these tiny little speakers, a single driver. They sound really mid-rangey and just like crap, because sometimes those help me. I use those sometimes getting started because they help me to not think about the mix. I don't know what's happening in stereo right now. I know I did a little bit of stuff with the reverb, but that's just kind of helping me, like, get like an atmosphere going, like, you know, to help me, like, be inspired. This isn't, like, if you're working on, like, panning and, like, low balance and stuff, I mean, these are little things you can do to kind of get it close, but we're writing a song right now. We're not, like, concerned about, you know, is this a perfect mix yet? I mean, like, just don't waste your time, like, doing that. What's going to happen is you're just going to end up burning out if that's all that you do, you know? What's happening right now is I'm just kind of, you know, taking this music somewhere. I don't know where it's going to go, and I can worry about the mix of it later. You know, this is just my little thing, you know. So might as well start from the beginning and think about what could happen next. Yeah, I'm gonna keep the dream alive. Let's just copy what we just did. feel like that could happen 2 more times. Why not, right? So I've still got this material here, and I mean, what's cool about this is that this material is made out of reverb from this other thing, so we know that it goes together. And because I made it completely wet, we could probably avoid a lot of the phasing that might happen, layering it over top of itself. I think, though, that at the very same time, sometimes phasing is good because it sounds cool. You know, like there's no rules that say you can't have things phase. You know, in fact, sometimes phasing, some kinds of phasing, I think sound cool and are desirable. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm doing here is I'm just alternating between these two little riser sounds. I got this one, that one, this one, that one. So let's get this one at the end. Cool. So now we have 4 reps of that, and I still have this material. So what else can I do with this? Sounds pretty sweet. You know what? I'm going to isolate this little guy, and let's get into some granular stuff. I'm going to open texture up, and what happens if I take it down an octave? Let's do that. Sounds pretty good still, but I'm going to change the make it just a little bit longer. I don't know if you saw what I did there. I just kind of dragged out the the BPM. So now the sample is stretched out. I'm all stretched out. All right, so I'm gonna take that and make a new track. Now that I have this kind of stretched out thing, and I'm using texture, it's kind of fun. Essentially, it'll just repeat this size of a sample over and over as the playhead moves, unless you turn the flux up. Then it will move that sampling section around a little bit and kind of get a little bit more variation. I think I could use a little bit more volume now that it's kind of lower end stuff. So I'm going to have this come in the second time around. Let's see what that sounds like. Sweet. Make that just a little bit longer. Switch that out just a little bit more. Just trying to get this to kind of cover this whole spot. See what that does. Okay, so now that we've got this kind of like layer of whatever, let's make it work in the mix, because right now, you know, it's just taking up a bunch of space it doesn't need to. To be honest, I'm not really necessarily looking for low end or low mids. What I'm looking for is kind of chord coverage. So what I'd like to do is, I guess I'll start with an auto filter. And oh, that's nice. And so now I'm going to feed it back into the reverb that created it. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Oh yeah, that's nice. Tell you what, let's just see what it sounds like at its native pitch. Kind of like that. I like it. I like it. It's not as tricky, but who cares? Yeah, I could see. You know, the funny thing is I was gonna bring in a saturator. You know what I'm saying? Like I was gonna bring in a saturator, but yeah, what he's saying is you can drive the auto filter with its own. It has like a drive amount if you change this little guy. I like to have the control separate, but why not? I'm live. We're doing this live, y'all. I'm gonna try it out. So this is case in point as to why. What I want to do is I want to have control of the output and drive separately. So I'm gonna leave this clean and grab a. You know what? I have two options to drive this, but I'm gonna grab a saturator and turn the output down. Saturator, I did a whole video on this. This is like one of my favorite plugins of all time, regardless of whether it's live or not. And everyone's like, well, it sounds like shit for distortion. Yeah, because it's digital. But guess what? It does wonders that you could never imagine. So watch that video because it'll make your mixes louder and stuff. And you won't even know that it's there. But I'm going to kind of add a little bit of hard clipping here. Usually the saturator won't have any audible effects, like real deep audible effect till it crosses the threshold. With hard clipping, it'll cross the threshold very quickly. Right? So now I have this like pretty harsh sound going. Let's make it a little bit weirder. That's nice. I'm actually gonna go medium curve and see what we got. Yes, that's nice. Maybe a little bit more low end. In case you're unfamiliar with Saturator, the bass control kind of like determines how much of the low end is passed through or affected by the Saturator. This is a useful thing. I couldn't imagine using Saturator without it. So yeah, now I got kind of like the saturated kind of sound I want out of this. So now I'm going to back off the dry wet until I still have that delicate. Now remember what I was talking about before, I'm gain matching here, y'all. I'm turning this on and off and making sure that it sounds just about the same volume with or without the effect to make sure that I've actually made an improvement. Get a little bit more drive. Okay. Back the dry wet off and then check the volume. Oops. Okay, so now I've got a little bit of distortion there. That's nice. Kind of what that's going to do is you're not even going to be able to tell that it's really on. I mean, this is being fed into a reverb. If it was dry, here, tell you what, if it was dry and turned all the way up, you can definitely tell that it's distorted, but it's not dry. It's being fed into a reverb. Why am I doing that? Because I want the quietest parts of it to still have the tonal character of being quiet. And what I mean by tonal character is that there's a little bit less high end, there's a little bit less of the saturation, but it still sounds to the ears about the same volume. That's the beauty of saturation, right? So the loudness, when I turn it on and it's loud, it sounds about the same volume, but when I turn it on and it's quiet, it's louder. That's the saturator doing its job. You could say, well, the compressor will do the same thing. Not really. A compressor will automate the volume. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about averaging out the tonal character, what sounds loud to a human ear, not so much what is actually level, like RMS, you know? If that goes right over your head, I'm sorry. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, so. But, okay, so now I've got this cool sound. Let's listen to it in context. So, I want to have some fun with this now. I mean, it's just on. That's not doing anybody good. I mean, I guess it sounds pretty cool. Maybe if you soloed these two out, it'd sound pretty cool. You got this. Maybe this too. Super trippy. But what I want this to do, I want this to play with the beat. So I'm actually going to use the sidechain compressor from the kick drum to, I'm going to choose one of the kick drums, actually. I have two of them, I think. So something that's cool about the sidechain compressor, or the input stage of the sidechain compressor, is that you can choose the track, right? So the first one is the track, second one is a way to choose which one of the kicks. So let's go ahead and watch the meter. See if I can find the kick drum that I actually used. There we go. Cool. So the one that's on kind of the downbeat, I want to use that one. So turn the threshold down a little bit. And I want this to be a strong effect, so I don't really care. I'm going to turn the ratio all the way up to infinite, because guess what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to turn the attack down as low as I can get it without clicking. And the release is going to be, that's my rhythm, okay? So the release, I'm using the release as kind of my rhythmic feature here, right? So what I needed to do is play this along with the drum rack. Really, with any writing and with most mixing, it's just kind of silly to ever listen to something by itself when you're past the sound design stage, right? So what I want to do now is I want to make these two play together well. That's really cool. I'm actually going to turn this threshold down more because I want this to come in and come out really, really hard. Now that's cool. Okay, so let's see what it sounds like. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. Let's just get some context. Maybe, yeah, that's fine. Alright, here it comes. it's a little late. I kind of want to bring it forward a little bit. Let's see what that does. Actually, going to put it back where it was, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to save this effect for later in the song. So I'm at that point in producing this where I've got an idea. Is I want this part so that's its own thing, right? And that's just over here. So what I'll do is, I mean, primarily when I'm working on music, my song ends up being on the left-hand side, and what I'm like, you know, ideas and things that I'm working with, and like long, you know, drones on the Euro rack or whatever, I'll just have them all the way over on the right-hand side, and I just drag them and throw them into the song. So this is kind of like, you can think of this as like a table full of like scraps and cardboard cutouts and, you know, random knickknacks and jazz and stuff, and then I just take that stuff and throw it into the song. And you can always, if you get up and you're starting to get into your other stuff, you can always, you know, hit create, insert silence, and add, you know, 40 bars of silence and push it out here, you know, just to get it out of the way. You can also click on the top, hit shift, click on the bottom, and just click on something and drag it out, you know. Whatever you want to do. Just, this is an idea for later, right? And so, in order to make this truly later, I'm turning the on-off switch off on this compressor. I'm going to hit B, and then I'm going to turn it on for just this part. Okay? So that kind of saves the compressor. It's ready for that part. And I don't have to make another track for it. Because I've decided that I want to do something entirely different with this. I want to kind of draw in a rhythm for this using the volume automation. So the first thing I need to do is kind of figure out what that rhythm is. So I'm going to hit B, which turns the mouse into the pen tool. I don't know how much of this you're actually seeing. I wonder if you can even see the mouse or the pen tool. I know you can see this turn on and off, but I don't know if like your actual view of my cursor is what I'm seeing. I wonder. Anyway, so I'm going to just do the drums in this part. And get real nitty-gritty in here. See if this is what I'm talking about. I'm gonna get even closer. I'm kind of transcating right now. Oh, thanks, Kevin. Let's see if this thing. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of making like an A-B part to doing kind of opposite what the drums are doing. I'm having like a little bit of fun here. Shaka. So now I've made my little part. I can now, with the A button on Ableton 10, and you can do this on Ableton 9 a lot easier, you just select it. But on 10, I'm just going to select the lower part of the wave, Command C and Command V. So now I've got this automation that I'm going to send throughout this track. Okay. So now I've got this little idea. Alright, that's pretty cool. And I can get in there and, you know, vary that, change that around a little bit if I want to. But now, let's see what that sounds like. You know, it would be really fun is to take this stuff right here and only do this automation in the second half of every bar. Oh, that's rad. I didn't know you could even do that. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. What I did is I'm basically like changing like somewhat of a dry-wet control. I selected all this, dragged it all down, and now I've got this kind of less extreme version. So if I push this against the bottom, see, I've selected all these. I'm clicking one of the top little automation points. I'm pushing it against the bottom. And now I can take the bottom ones and push them up. And magically, look at that. How cool is that? So now I have this. It's not an extreme version. And then the second half of it is extreme. Let's see what that does. Pretty sweet. So now I can just copy this to the second half. Cool. So I want to listen back a little bit and maybe think about what could happen next. I mean, I need to do that. It's just that's how my brain works. I can't just after I've kind of got into something, I can't just like think about the song without getting out of it, out of that part, I should say, for the time being. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Okay, so I've got some of this material still. Wonder how many of you have messed with the slicer before. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to slice to a new MIDI track, and I'll use the no velocity version. Well, no, I'll use the built-in version. The difference between these two is you can, so if you were to slice up a sample, it takes a long time to take the velocity settings off or on because you've sliced it to so many samples. So that's why they have this here. Built-in means that it does have velocity settings on it. I'm going to leave the velocity on. So I'm going to slice this to 1/8 notes. Okay. I don't know if you guys have tried to slice before. It's really awesome. What it does is it spits out this instrument. It kind of made an instrument. We could just call this verb slices. Now I have this little instrument here that I've made out of this other sample. So just like before, I'm going to take this and drag it out of the way. Just get it out of the way. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. I'll just make the drum beat keep going. And maybe come up with a little riff. Okay, that's my new riff. Okay, so now I've made this silly little slicey thing. And I'm doing this really fast, but I at this point, I'm not like putting any other feel onto this, so I'm just quantizing this by just hitting Command U. You want to set up, if you're doing quantizing, you want to set up your quantize settings once. And once you get your quantize settings set, every single time you hit Command U, you're going to get the same quantize results. So maybe you want different quantize results. Every single time you do it, make sure you change what your quantize settings are. Okay, so now with that velocity, as you can see, I've committed some velocity to this, so it's not going to always be as loud as it should be, and sometimes it'll be louder than it should be. So I'm going to get in here and just crank it up a little bit using a utility plugin. And why am I doing that? Because it's not loud enough at 0. So I'm going to crank this up. See what a little bit of room reverb does for that. I just added that little, you know what? I'm going to add this one instead. I feel like this could use a nice sub hit. So I'm actually going to make a new audio track and just drag in a sub hit from this endless drum pack that I have. I'm sorry, that's probably so loud on your ears. You know what? I'm just going to make it. And anymore, I just find myself making samples instead of finding samples. I'm going to use a... I don't even know if you could actually hear what I'm about to do, but I bet you can. Operator. We're going to set it on sine wave, and we're going to do just a little bit of pitch mod. Also, when you're working with low-end stuff like this, a good thing to do, you can use a saturator to kind of figure out what note you're playing. What do I mean by that? Turn the output volume down, the drive up. Now you can see what note you're playing. So now, right, so now I have my little sub part that I was thinking of, and I can turn the saturator. I'm going to leave the saturator here actually, so I can get just a little bit more audibility on that, but I'm going to turn the drive down because I just want that low end. Unless you have headphones on, you probably can't even tell that's there. It's a good thing to remember. Sometimes it doesn't matter all the work you've done, and everyone listens to everything that you made on a cheap, tiny little computer speakers or a cheap little crappy smartphone, and they'll never know all the work you did in the low end. All right, to my ears, that's nice. It's funny, I should be doing this, showing you this stuff, and then not even saving it at all. So before I get too far and get sad, I'm going to save this. Okay, got it saved. Loop that part real quick here. All right. Cool. Well, to be honest, y'all, I don't know how well this worked, so I think that this is about as far as I'm going to get on this tonight. So if you're still watching, I'd be surprised if there's anybody still watching, but if you are still watching, I think that these live feeds are going to be really cool, and over the course of the next 6 months, as I get better and better at them, I'm going to maybe even start doing the whole show this way, so I can stay on task. And it's kind of nice also to get kind of live feedback of people talking, and I have a couple really cool ideas I'd like to try. So James is still in it. I was thinking about maybe doing like a thing where people upload their music and we all kind of listen together, because I can get that audio to sound really good, because I'm piping the audio directly from the interface into the AAC encoder, so it should sound better. You guys, it sounds like direct, right? It doesn't sound like it's coming out of the speakers and then into the microphone. It sounds like it's going directly to your ears, right? It should. Give me a yes it is or no it's not, because yeah, this kind of hinges on the fact that the audio is as good here as it would be if I was using just my standard way of making videos. Yeah, sick. All right, cool, sounds direct. So yeah, what I was just saying is that other idea I had is we could do a session where everybody's kind of uploading their latest thing that they're working on, and we all listen to it together, and we pick it apart and talk about like what we could do to improve the audio or something like that. Another thing I was thinking about doing is maybe like everybody making a song together live by like sending samples over the internet. I don't know. I got a lot of cool ideas. But thanks for. I wanted to do this on a Monday night. I knew that there wouldn't be that many watchers because I wanted to kind of just like make sure this stuff all worked. So thanks for watching, y'all. Yeah, have fun. Happy producing. I'll see you next time.